following program contains mature subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised.
So there's this individual named Liz Fong Jones, and they are somebody who tried to do the drop Kiwi Farms thing back in the day, and they, I guess, have escalated to certain tactics that should kind of concern everybody. And it's something that, content creators have kind of had to deal with, as far as DMCA shit goes before. But it's very interesting, I guess, how this individual has decided to turn their tactics. Yeah, even Andy Ngo kind of covered stuff a bit ago. This was back in March, with Andy Ngo saying, a trans activist doesn't want you to see his picture. DEI trans radical and accused sexual predator Liz Fong Jones, aka Zen Elizabeth Fong Jones, is trying to intimidate the Kiwi Farms forums by sending a legal threat from a New York law firm after someone posted a meme of Fong Jones. He claims the meme, which mocks his appearance and highlights the sexual assault accusation against him, is a copyright violation. In response, LolCow LLC, which owns Kiwi Farms, filed a federal civil lawsuit against Fong Jones. Fong Jones infamously used his prior position at Google to push for censorship and woke politics in big tech. So he's claiming that this image of him, which is also his profile picture, is his intellectual property, and thus anyone reposting this image of him puts themselves in danger of getting DMCA by him, not because he cares about his IP, question mark, but because he wants to make it hell for anyone who tries talking about him or his consent accident, as can be seen on here. And here's an excerpt that says, she genuinely believes that I have sexually assaulted her, and I considered her a friend and am genuinely sorry for what she's going through, but feel that a blameless perspective would try to examine how the miscommunication happened. CW? I'm used to TW for trigger warning. I don't know what CW means. Allegations of sexual assault and CPTSD. In my view, this was neither foreseeable nor deliberate. I sincerely wish that we had each communicated our circumstances and needs better. But there is nothing I can do about it now that the damage has been done. Content warning, allegations of sexual assault. I hope that she heals, and I understand she may need to talk about it in order to heal or get closure. She has asked me to never contact her again, and I'm doing my best to abide by it. Slack missing a block feature notwithstanding. That's a crazy thing to say. Matthew Harden removal request pursuant to 17 USC. Matthew, I am counsel to Zen Elizabeth Fong Jones, who holds the copyright to the visual work identified as Fong Jones Photo Group, a bunch of numbers, under registration number, whatever the fuck. A copy of the original is available at this fucking URL. An unauthorized copy of this work was first uploaded to your client's website by user 3MMA and is available on Kiwi Farms, the following URL, among others. I have a good faith belief that the copy is unauthorized by Miss Fong Jones, her agents, or the law, and infringes on Miss Fong Jones' copyright. Please remove this unauthorized and infringing copy of Miss Fong Jones' protected work immediately, as well as all other infringing copies. If you have further questions, please contact me by email at whatever the fuck, or by phone at whatever the fuck, or by post at the address in the letterhead. Under penalty of perjury, I affirm the information in the following is true and correct to the best of my knowledge, and that I am authorized to act on behalf of Elizabeth Fong Jones, the owner of the exclusive rights which she alleges are infringed. So this has been going on for the bulk of this year, where Liz Fong Jones is kind of just going after individual users instead of the Kiwi Farms website as a whole. And when you go after individual users, right, when you're like, Spunk Lord Michael, I'm sending a DMCA request to you for editing a photo of me, the entire purpose behind that is not necessarily to get that image taken down, especially when it comes to somebody as headhunty as LFJ here. This is to get that individual's docs information to make them no longer anonymous and to actually cause harm to them in real life, as we know people on the left are wont to do. In addition to that, when you start sending DMCA requests with the express purpose of doxing people, that's going to create a sentiment of fear. People are going to not want to be as open or post as honestly as previously, because they are now in danger of some psychopath sending a DMCA request to get their docs information that could affect their real life. He knows he'd actually lose if this went to court. It's about the docs info. And it's when you have enough money to do these kind of things, it becomes very scary, right? And so there's a court listener file here. LolCow LLC versus Fong Jones, third-party complaint. And this was filed June 26th. So third-party plaintiff Zen Elizabeth Fong Jones, third-party claims. This is an action for copyright infringement under the Copyright Act of 1976, bunch of numbers. Original plaintiff counterclaim defendant Lolcow LLC owns and operates the internet forum known as Kiwi Farms, on and through which it has reproduced, publicly displayed, and distributed, and continues to reproduce, publicly display, or distribute, a professional photographic portrait in which Fong Jones holds the registered copyright, without authorization and over Fong Jones's express objection. These third-party claims arise out of the same transaction and occurrence that is the subject matter of Lolcow's complaint, and are compulsory under Federal RCiv P13. Third-party plaintiff and counterclaim plaintiff Jen Elizabeth Fong Jones is an individual and is the owner of the copyright in the work at issue. Third-party plaintiff is a citizen of the United States and resident of Australia and Canada. Original plaintiff and counterclaim defendant Lolcow LLC is a limited liability company organized under the laws of the state of West Virginia, with its sole member Joshua Moon, a resident and domiciliary of the state of Florida. Lolcow owns and operates Kiwi Farms and does business as Kiwi Farms. It's a meme, so it falls under fair use. It doesn't matter if these are false claims. Proving, even though all of us know that the intent is to get docs information, proving that legally would be expensive and very fucking difficult. Joshua Moon is a resident of the state of Florida and has consented to jurisdiction in this court via the filing of this lawsuit. For purposes of this action, Lolcow and Joshua Moon are the same party under a theory of alter ego / piercing the corporate veil. Doe 1, 3 MMA, Doe 2, sexy senior citizen, Doe 3, Diggus Bickus. I can't believe I'm reading this in a fucking legal doc. Doe 4, Teriyaki Burns. Doe 5, Dread First. Doe 6, the mass shooter Ron Soy. And Doe 7, Getter Grifter, are individuals unknown to counterclaim plaintiff who are registered users of counterclaim defendant Lolcow LLC, and are the subject of pending 17 U.S.C. 512 subpoenas and are counterclaim defendants herein. They may be served at some future stage of the litigation after their identities have been disclosed via subpoenas issued by this court order.
Have we what?
Subpoena! Have you subpoenaed a witness?
I certainly hope not. You should be ashamed of yourself for even thinking it.
You're unfazed after Big Balls worked for Doge? What if this had been one of the Kiwi Farms users with, like, the N-word in their name, right? Like, what if I have to read the N-word as a part of a legal documentation? Doe's 8, Lollardy, Doe 9, None 7, Doe 10, Taquito are users who have had content removed under the DMCA by Lolcow and Joshua Moon, but for whom the 17 USC subpoena process has been stayed pending the outcome of present motions to quash. They may be served with the process once their identities have been disclosed. So it's like, there's already 10 fucking people that have been hit with, like, DMCAs in this manner? That's kind of fucking crazy. You would need the pass from a black lawyer to read it in a court document? Well, that's when I can just get, like, Nate, right? He can say it. This court has subject matter jurisdiction over these third-party claims pursuant to 28 U.S.C. 1331 and 1338A because they arise under the Copyright Act. The court additionally has jurisdiction pursuant to 28 U.S.C. 1367A and Fed RCiv P 13A. This court has personal jurisdiction over the Doe defendants to the extent that the defendants have made an appearance in this court, requesting quashal of subpoenas served on them under 17 U.S.C. 512H. The parties have agreed to stay service upon defendants and any related proceedings until after the resolution of the motions to quash. Venue is proper in this district pursuant to bunch of numbers. Lolcow commenced this action in the district and a substantial part of the events giving rise to these counterclaims, including the routing of Lolcow's internet traffic and the consequent reproduction and display of the infringing material occurred in this district according to Lolcow's own allegations. For what it's worth, the farms state repeatedly to use a dummy account that can't be traced back for this exact reason. It doesn't matter if you use a dummy account. If you get served a DMCA and a subpoena, you are unmasked. You have to give your information. Like, you are fucked. Unless you want to front the money, which would be a minimum $5,000 retainer for pretty much any lawyer worth their salt, you're fucked. Which is why this is a big deal. The work at issue is a professional photographic portrait of Fong Jones, the work created in 2025 by the professional photographer Zachary Drucker through deliberate creative choices including lighting, composition, framing, and subject direction. Fong Jones is the owner by assignment of the copyright in the work and of the exclusive rights therein, including the rights of reproduction, public display, distribution, and preparation of derivative works under 17 U.S.C. 106. The work is registered with the United States Copyright Office. The work is included within the group of unpublished photographs registered under registration number, bunch of numbers, with an effective date registration of August 25th, 2025, naming Zachary Drucker as author and Fong Jones as copyright claimant by assignment. That's insane to actually take out like a working copyright on an image of you for this purpose. That seems kind of insane. Lolcow has reproduced, stored, publicly displayed, and distributed the work on and through Kiwi Farms in two forms. A screenshot in which the work is reproduced in full or in substantial part, and B, various cropped and or altered versions of the work, bearing overlaid text, collectively the infringing material. Lolcow does not merely passively host the infringing material. Lolcow stores the infringing material on its own servers and transmits and publicly displays it to users, including, according to the Lolcow's own allegations, by routing a substantial portion of its traffic through New York. Lolcow further affirmatively claims a license under its terms of service to use, publish, and republish the infringing material, thereby exercising the exclusive rights reserved to Fong Jones under 17 U.S.C. 106. On February 26, 2026, Fong Jones, through counsel, served a notification pursuant to 17 bunch of numbers upon Lolcow's designated agent, identifying the work and the infringing material and demanding its removal. Lolcow initially refused to remove or disable access to the infringing material through counsel in correspondence dated March 2, 2026, and thereafter. Lolcow asserted that it would not remove the infringing material and claimed a license and fair use. Lolcow has not filed any counter notification under a bunch of numbers. Furthermore, Lolcow now falsely claims that the infringing material is no longer available, but all infringing material can be accessed in a number of ways. Lolcow's reproduction, display, and distribution of the infringing material is not authorized by Fong Jones, her agents, or the law, and is not protected by fair use. The infringing material reproduces the work to depict its subject, which is the original purpose of a portrait photograph, and is not transformative. Under Andy Warhol Foundation for the Visual Arts, including Inc., versus Goldsmith 598 US 508, 2023. You thought that it was the photographer videographer that held the ownership of the copyright of the pic video? You vaguely remember seeing something about the revenge porn getting lesser and different charges because of that? That might have been the case in whatever the fuck you're talking about, but in this case it is not, because it said above, we just read it somewhere in one of these paragraphs, that the copyright was registered as Liz Fong Jones having full copyrights to the image despite whatever the fuck the guy's name was being the photographer. So it's differently filed for this one versus whatever the fuck you were talking about. Josh is guilty of almost everything he accuses others. You have a hard time caring about what happens to Green Reddit. Even if you don't care about Green Reddit, what Liz Fong Jones is doing affects everybody, right? Like, if you want anonymity online, this is going to affect you. Which is why, even if you don't like Kiwi Farms, even if you hate Kiwi Farms, this is still an important thing to talk about. It creates legal precedent, yes. You don't agree with Josh on a lot of things, but Liz Fong Jones abusing DMCA rules to dox their haters for whatever reason, you agree that that's very, very bad. Yes, exactly. Which is why it's like, I've got my issues with how the website's been doing recently. A lot of people have a lot of issues with the website. I've always been against doxing, which is something I seem to have to repeat every time I talk about Kiwi Farms, for some reason. But, you know, it's like, even if you don't like them and you don't care if this is happening to them, like, you should care, because if this goes through, if Liz Fong Jones is able to actually successfully get people's dox information by doing this, and there's no counter for these people without spending thousands of dollars, this could happen to you. This could happen to your Oshi. This could happen to any number one of the YouTubers that you enjoy watching who like doing things anonymously. Forgive you for being a breakfast non-perceiver, but what can we as normal citizens do about this? Nothing. If this happens to you, you're just fucked as of right now, which is why I'm covering it. Because it's a very bad precedent that we currently have no way to fight against unless you have the money to launch a counterclaim. Lolcow's infringement is willful. Lolcow received Fong Jones' notification, was advised in detail of the basis for the infringement claim, and made a considered decision to continue reproducing, displaying, and distributing the infringing material. As a direct and proximate result of Lolcow's infringement, Fong Jones has suffered and continues to suffer injury, and Lolcow has profited from its unauthorized exploitation of the work. The DOE users are users of Plaintiff's Interactive Forum with the usernames as stated in paragraph 5, and have used those usernames at all times and places relevant to these counterclaims. And they just post the posting dates for all this stuff in March and February, after March 21st, 2026. And after filing of this lawsuit, Josh Moon, as principal for Lolcow LLC, attempted to remove the copyright images following submission of the DMCA takedown notices by counterclaim plaintiffs' counsel. I feel like he really had no other option, right? Because if he's going to attempt to protect the users from getting their docs information, like, obtained by Liz Fong Jones, removing them would be his only option, as much as I'm sure he hates doing any kind of removal. But I guess that they're just taking the fact that he removed things as an admission of guilt, rather than an admission of, I don't want users on my forum to be harmed. You've read the relevant law. Removal for 3 days is required regardless of whether the host thinks it's legit. That's even more fucked up. That's even more fucked up if it's required removal, and then they're just like, well, he removed it, so that obviously means he knows it doesn't belong there. That's crazy. By its own complaint, Lolcow admits that it claims an affirmative license to the infringing material. Lolcow alleges that in its terms of service granted a license to material its users post, and that it accordingly claims a license from the individuals who posted the 2 images. Lolcow further alleges that the claimed license runs to reproduce and maintain the work, ECF1 compilation 27, and that it has a license to reproduce user-generated content, ECF1 compilation 30, or maybe complaint 30? I don't know. I'm not used to reading legalese, I'm used to reading motherfucking corpo speak. In the correspondence Lolcow attached to its own complaint, Lolcow described that license as non-exclusive, permanent, and irrevocable, and as conferring the right to use, publish, or republish the material on Lolcow's own behalf. Lolcow thus does not claim to host the protected material passively or merely at a user's discretion. It claims an affirmative, proprietary, and perpetual right to reproduce, publish, republish, and maintain the work, thereby exercising the exclusive rights reserved to Fong Jones under 17 U.S.C. 106. I would disagree with this because it's transformative, and so it's not exclusive rights reserved, right? If you transform copyright holder content, that's typically fair use. So I'm not exactly sure like what they're trying to argue here that would even potentially work. But then when you realize they don't exactly care about the IP, the entire purpose is to unmask anonymous people. His goal was the actual suit. His goal wasn't to lose in court and essentially pay money to unmask people he doesn't like. H3H3 followed suit in serving the suits. Yeah, H3H3 wasn't trying to unmask people. They were filing like legitimate lawsuits. Whereas this person is filing a lawsuit that basically has no legs. But if you file this, like, there's nothing that the people that you're filing it against can do. It's again, just like the DMCA requests on YouTube, right? We have so many YouTubers who have put forth false DMCA requests because they're not actually trying to get any information taken down. They're trying to get the docs information of the person who's like exposed them or showed something that they said or did that they didn't like. It's been something that YouTubers have had to deal with for a hot fucking minute. H3 filed because they barely talked over it and then said, if you enjoyed taking money and views from H3, please subscribe. Yeah, I have no idea how H3 lost that one because it was even admitted that they did it with like false intentions, right? Like their entire stated goal from their own mouth was to take money and views from H3H3. I don't know how they managed to lose that. But this is basically the opposite of that. It's not the same as H3 filing. This is filed for the express purpose of getting people's information. Consistent with that claimed license, Lolcow has left the protected material in place and has refused to remove or disable access to it. The 2 images remain posted on Kiwi Farms, see ECF1 Complaint 16, and are the very images Lolcow placed at issue in this action from does 1 through 6, or 1 and 6. After receiving Fong Jones' February 26, 2026 notification, Lolcow did not remove the protected material and did not submit any counter notification under 17 U.S.C. 512. Instead, it asserted a permanent, irrevocable license entitling it to keep the material up and reproduce it. Lolcow's decision to maintain the protected material was deliberate and volitional, was made with full knowledge of Fong Jones's claim, and renders it continued reproduction, display, and distribution of the work willful. Moon is Lolcow's sole member. Lolcow owns an internet forum called Kiwi Farms and does business as Kiwi Farms. Lolcow is primarily an online business with no physical office. Lolcow's only address of record is a P.O. box in South Charleston, West Virginia. That's crazy. I wonder who checks the P.O. box. Moon is the one who made the license to reproduce admissions. Lolcow is the alter ego of Joshua Moon. That's such a weird way to put it in like legal docs. Because like I would never call that an alter ego. I would just call that like the business form, right? What if they funded a lawyer and then countersued Fong Jones for a shitload of money? I don't think there's anything to really countersue on, and again, it costs a lot of money for the average person to fight against this kind of thing. Josh has been spending money on lawyers and lawsuits for quite a long time. And again, Liz Fong Jones has a massive axe to grind because they tried getting Kiwi Farms taken off the internet years ago. I defended it back then as well because it's like, even if you don't like Kiwi Farms, if someone is able to get the website taken down because there are criticisms of them that they don't like, right, then that sets a huge, horrific precedent for any kind of speech that you have on any other website as well. I think that it's normal to have criticisms of people that exist. I dislike when people start lying about other people, but it's kind of rough to even do anything about liars, unfortunately. Remember, chat, if you think this doesn't apply to you because you don't like group XYZ, remember the saying, first they came, these guys enjoy the same protections you do, and if they go down, you'll be next on their list. You're not special to these people and will not be the exception. That's exactly, like, how I see it, right? Again, I've defended the website on many of an occasion. I have issues with the website, but that doesn't prevent me from being like, hey, I understand that these issues affect way more than just them. If you hate the website way more than even, like, a normal person does, that's cool. You can hate them. Understand this affects you if you enjoy Anonymity online and you like Anonymity online, right? So there's a massive archive of all of the complaints since March 11th. And so you have, like, the little numbers on the side that, like, bring up all of the different complaints. And once again, to, like, show how kind of ridiculous this is, I have a couple of the documents that I opened up here. March 2nd, 2026, Elaine Haygood, Esquire, blah, blah, blah. Your letter dated February 26th. Dear Mr. Haygood, I'm in receipt of your letter dated February 26, 2026, requesting removal of 2 items from the Kiwi Farms on copyright grounds. I understand you seek removal of the following. This screenshot as shown in its surrounding context. And this is just a post saying, new year, new horror, even the photographer is trans. Spoiler, after having used the same profile photo everywhere for several years, the world will be treated to this new monstrosity. Don't worry, I would recognize the lightweight skeleton from a mile away. I would recognize your silhouette in a dark alley. You're extremely ugly and will never be a woman. And it's just a screenshot of Liz Fong Jones' Blue Sky account, I'm imagining, not Twitter. Little crazy. It's like, hey, you posted a screenshot of my Twitter. I'm DMCAing this. This image, consent accidents do occasionally happen. Both items constitute fair use under 17 U.S.C. 107. My client asserts this defense on behalf of its users and on its own behalf pursuant to the non-exclusive, permanent, irrevocable license granted under its terms of service, which provides my client the right to use, publish, or republish user-submitted content in connection with its service. All 4 statutory factors confirm that both uses are lawful. The first item is a screenshot of a social media post, itself a derivative work in which the photograph appears embedded within user commentary. And this is why I keep saying, regardless of how you feel about the farms, if you care about internet anonymity and fair use, you will pay attention to this. Imagine if someone like The Quartering started DMCAing people for screenshots of his Twitter. Imagine how many people would be covering that story. Imagine if a VTuber who got outed for some duplicitous behavior started sending DMCA requests to YouTubers covering said behavior, right? Like this is something that has been resoundingly, like, demonized in the content creator community. You don't do that, right? Because it makes you not only look guilty, but it makes you a piece of shit. And now, this is just going after random users on a forum. This isn't even going after content creators. This is trying to get the docs information of just an average forum user to try and get their information to try and ruin their lives. Yeah, I've seen VTubers do that. Yeah, and pretty much everybody says it's gross. Ralph would go after Medicare. Yeah, exactly. Ralph would absolutely go after Medicare. He would go after Kino Casino even harder than he did, right? When Quartering got Kino Casino's channel shut down, it didn't matter if people had beef with Kiwi Farms. It didn't matter if people had things about, like, the Kino Casino they didn't like. Everybody kind of came together and was like, hey, Jer Bear, that's kind of fucked up. Why are you doing that? Why are you, like, what the fuck? Am I safe from this, though? I'm reading court documents, which are pretty much the de facto fair use. Yeah, they still could, like, issue a DMCA request through YouTube, and I wouldn't be able to do anything about it besides eat the DMCA request. I would absolutely fucking blow this shit up, though, if that happened. The poster critiques both the artistic merit of the photograph and the appearance of your client, noting, inter alia, that Fong Jones is extremely ugly and will never be a woman, and that the lighting does not do Fong Jones any favors. The photograph is not reproduced in its original form or to convey its original meaning, but is instead the object of criticism. This is precisely the use contemplated by 107. And it's like, when I think about it, like, yeah, obviously, if somebody was posting an image of me and being like, wow, this person's extremely ugly, I am a woman, but like, they could just be like, oh, fucking, they'll never get a non-incel, overweight hippo boyfriend, right? Like, I don't know. I'd be like, yeah, that fucking sucks. I hate seeing it. But issuing a DMCA request over that would be kind of like whiny bitch behavior, right? Like, that's not a legitimate use for DMCA, in my opinion. It's like, I don't like what you said, but it's still an opinion. The second image is even more clearly transformative. In it, the user has cropped the photograph and overlaid critical commentary directly onto it, creating an entirely new work with a new message. The overlaid text references your client's own public statement regarding allegations of sexual assault, and the euphemistic phrase consent accident. The text refers to your client's public admission that allegations of sexual assault were made as to your client's behavior. These public statements are the specific subject matter referenced in the overlaid text, and understanding them is essential to appreciating the critical commentary the user's work conveys. Now, see, if this was a lie, I would absolutely not be on the side of the farms here, right? If they were lying about a consent accident happening, I would be like, I could understand someone getting angry enough to finally file some kind of a lawsuit. But this isn't a lie. This is a real thing that has happened and has been addressed by Liz Fong Jones themselves multiple fucking times. They just don't like when people criticize them for it. And they have a screenshot here from Liz Fong Jones saying, this attempts to describe a consent accident that occurred on November 3rd in Zurich. I'm going to try to, as carefully as I can, conduct a blameless retrospective about what happened. I have known the person who accuses me of sexual assault for over 8+ years, and relevantly, she has known that I once had a psychiatric service animal, that dog recently passed away, and that my family still has another dog. I have no idea what the fuck the dead dog or the still alive dog have to do with you being accused of sexual assault. What the fuck does that have to do with literally anything? And yes, Liz Fong Jones enjoys calling his sexual assault allegation a consent accident. You know, use that soft Marxist language to convince people you did nothing wrong. Similarly, like anal violence, or there's another YouTuber that also claims to have POCD, that pedophilic obsessive compulsive disorder. If it's just a brain boo-boo, then that's you get sympathy points for that. You're a little victim. You're not actually a pedophile. You just have pedophile-themed OCD. And then they have a further context with an archive here. By juxtaposing the subject's smile with the phrase, consent accidents do occasionally happen, the user has created a work that conveys a message fundamentally different from the original photograph. This is textbook transformative use, shedding light on an earlier work and, in the process, creating a new one. Campbell versus Acuff Rose Music, Inc., and then a bunch of numbers for the case. Man, when I was, like, looking into lawyer stuff earlier this year, that was exhausting enough. I cannot imagine how much bullshit you have to deal with when you have someone like Liz Fong Jones gunning at your entire site. Like, this is obnoxious. Applying the 4 statutory factors to both of the above images works confirms fair use. As the first factor, purpose and character of the use, both works are used for criticism and commentary. Purpose is expressly enumerated in 107, and both are transformative. The screenshot embeds the photograph within critical commentary directed at the photograph itself and its subject. The modified image overlays the subject's own public statements onto the photograph, creating an entirely new, expressive work with a fundamentally different message. As to the second factor, the nature of the copyrighted work, the underlying work is a professional headshot, a largely factual depiction of its subject's appearance, not a work of high creature, by the way. And the underlying work is a professional headshot, a largely factual depiction of its subject's appearance, not a work of high creative expression, warranting broad protection. See Nunez versus Caribbean International News Corp, bunch of numbers. Photographs used to depict factual subject matter weigh in favor of fair use under the second factor. If you guys will remember, I had a lot of trouble with Storyful sending DMCA and copyright claims to me. I pulled up a video. I was looking for a chemical fire that happened in Georgia. And when I searched for it, the first video that came up, I expected to have been the recent chemical fire that was going on. And instead, it brought up a chemical fire from a few years ago, and it was a video by Storyful. And Storyful sent a full-on copyright strike to my channel. So I could not access the VoD, and it was like an 8.5 hour VoD or so, where the video was up for like maybe 25, 35 seconds, something like that, when I realized, oh, this isn't the right fire, let's take this down. And Storyful copyright claimed it, so my full channel got a strike. It wasn't just on the video. It wasn't just on the video. It was a full channel strike that I had to, like, take the copyright claims class to get, like, this will fall off in 90 days kind of shit, right? So that was really bad. And when I tried to counterclaim it, and I was like, hey, you know, I didn't even mean to watch this video. It was in, like, an 8.5 hour VoD. It was very short. I can just take it out, because, like, it didn't need to be there. They rejected that, and so I wrote them an email explaining the full situation. I was like, hey, I was covering this news story about a chemical fire. Your video was the first one in results, so I thought it was the correct chemical fire. Your video is from one a few years ago in roughly the same area. Can I just have my claim released on my channel so that I can edit it out of the VoD? I don't want to have your footage in there at all. It doesn't need to be in there. It shouldn't be in there. I didn't mean to play it. I just want to delete it. And they said, no, but you can pay us this amount of money for the rights to use the video. We can license it to you. And I was like, I'm not going to pay for a license for a video that I don't even want in my content. So I would like for it to be released so I can delete it. And they said no. And a few other people have gotten these claims from Storyful. Like, I know Alana has said she dealt with them before. This is what Storyful does. They use copyright claims in order to scare YouTubers into trying to pay them money. This is very similar to what Liz Fong Jones is doing, except instead of getting money from YouTubers, Liz Fong Jones wants to get identities of anonymous people to probably try and get them fired from their jobs because they dared to criticize him. They wanted you to buy it? Yeah, it's fucking wild. That should be highly illegal. The entire, like, copyright claim and DMCA claim system literally rewards fraudulency. It is almost impossible to fight against if you are a legitimate person doing legitimate things. It is an insane system that many YouTubers have been saying needs to be changed for years now. This Liz Fong person sounds far more malicious. They are far more malicious. And the only, like, after reading this and, like, hearing them say that this is the first time Liz Fong Jones has updated their profile picture in who knows how many years, it seems very obvious to me that they took out a copyright expressly on this picture, changed their profile picture for the first time in however many years to this picture, in order to start throwing out these claims at people, because they realized after their failure to get Kiwi Farms taken down before, if attacking the website directly allows Kirsche to defend his site and his users, just go after the users directly, because the users aren't going to have the money to try and, like, front any kind of defense against it. Most of these people probably aren't going to have $5,000 laying around to retain a lawyer. That doesn't mean any kind of a case will cost that much, potentially, who knows. But even then, if you counterclaim, you're giving Liz Fong Jones what they want anyways, your personal information. So you're stuck in this kind of catch-22 where it's like, I did nothing wrong, this is fair use, but whether I ignore it or whether I counterclaim, Liz Fong Jones gets what they wanted, which is my personal information. As to the third factor, the amount and substantiality used, the use of the full photograph is justified because the works criticize the photograph itself and its subject's appearance therein. One cannot effectively critique a specific image without reproducing it. See Bill Graham Archives versus Dorling Kindersley, Limited, a bunch of numbers. Copying an entire work does not preclude fair use where the purpose is transformative and the extent of copying is reasonable in relation to the purpose. But it is also not clear that the full image in which you assert a copyright has been used. One of the images is a screenshot of a social media post, itself derivative of the original image, and the other appears to be cropped and has text overlaid upon the image such that the resulting image does not mirror the original. As to the fourth factor, effect on the market, there is no market for licensing this headshot to critics, and neither use supplants the market for the original. Your client freely disseminated the photograph on social media. These uses do not compete with any existing or reasonably anticipated commercial exploitation of the work. All four factors weigh strongly in favor of fair use. Your client's demand for removal is therefore baseless. Your client has extensive history with the Kiwi Farms, both personally and as a former field CTO of Honeycomb, including the well-documented #DropKiwiFarms and #EndKiwiFarms campaigns. This history provides considerable context for the present demand and suggests that it may not be viewed as a good faith attempt to resolve a copyright claim, but as more nefarious element of a broader and legally malicious effort to impair my client's lawful business conduct. We note that 17 USC bunch of numbers requires that a complainant possess a good faith belief that the use of the material is not authorized by the copyright owner, its agent, or the law. Fair use is such authorization. Lens versus Universal Music Corp, bunch of numbers. The transformative character of both images at issue, one a screenshot embedded within critical commentary, and the other a photograph physically altered with overlaid text conveying an entirely different message, is self-evident. In the event that this matter proceeds to litigation, I note that my client will likely be entitled to substantial recovery under 17 USC, bunch of numbers, and Fogarty versus Fantasy Inc., bunch of numbers. So this is the counterclaim by Kiwi Farm saying this is completely transformative, this is completely fair use. We know that this is likely a bad faith ruling by this person to try and deal damage to someone that they have had issues with in the past. And they show all these factors that show how bullshit the claim is, and that it's obviously not good faith, but there would never be any punishments against the freak abusing DMCA. Yes, exactly. It's very unfortunate. And then there's another one here. Matthew, I am counsel to Jen Elizabeth Fong Jones, who holds the copyright to the visual work identified as Fong Jones Group Photo, bunch of numbers, under registration, bunch of numbers. A copy of the original is available at that link. Unauthorized copy of this work was first uploaded to your client's website by user 3MMA and is available on Kiwi Farms with the following URLs. I have good faith belief that the copy is unauthorized by Miss Fong Jones, her agents, or the law, and infringes on Miss Fong Jones' copyright. Please remove the unauthorized and infringing copy of Miss Fong Jones' protected work immediately. And then they have a bunch of numbers and a bunch of emails and whatnot. Under penalty of perjury, I affirm that the information in the foregoing is true and correct to the best of my knowledge. And so they're just like, no, you gotta fix this shit. And here's another one, Lane Haygood. The subpoena received on March 24th. Dear Mr. Haygood, this letter will convey Lolcow LLC's written objections to the subpoena. I think we already read some of this, so I just want to look through the screenshots because this was in the, this thing earlier. As you will know, and as I more briefly recounted in my correspondence as ECF number 12, your client has a history with Lolcow LLC. Specifically, your client believes that the speech on Lolcow LLC's website is morally objectionable, and your client has taken repeated efforts to deplatform Lolcow LLC and to interfere in its relationships with service providers. Your client characterized that campaign as Drop Kiwi Farms or End Kiwi Farms in various social media campaigns. Your client brags that everything should be done to take down Lolcow LLC's website, from putting pressure on its upstream providers to filing lawsuits against its customers. And the screenshot here of, I'm assuming this is Blue Sky and not Twitter, but it's hard to tell sometimes. Liz Fong Jones saying, there is no way to increase pressure on Kiwi Farm short of going after its providers. It's literally run by the same people who post the hate content. There's no distinction between user and operator here. Which is kind of crazy, because unless you think that Kirsche is every single poster on the website, what the fuck do you mean by that? Someone named Ashley Lake responding, saying, there absolutely is, and just because it hasn't worked yet does not mean the only way to deal with it is Cloudflare. To you it seems so, because that's your expertise, but it's not true. If sex work sites can be seized, Gawker taken down, there are other ways to destroy a site. I think this person fundamentally misunderstands what happened with Gawker if they're saying that. Holy shit. Liz Fong Jones responding, Cloudflare subsidized it and made it so they could hide behind one pro-Nazi provider rather than actually having to do their homework. Pro-Nazi provider, eh? Cloudflare's pro-Nazi? Yeah, it's my first time hearing that. What the fuck? And then Liz Fong Jones also saying, look, I've been trying to get Kiwi Farms taken down for almost 6 years. I've tried literally everything else in the book. Hadn't worked yet. I don't know. If 6 years, numerous people filing lawsuits complaining to the cops isn't long enough. And this is basically like what I've said in the past, right? Like Liz Fong Jones going after the farms previously, they didn't really have a leg to stand on. They were trying to get it taken down for criticisms of him and also criticisms of like just trans stuff in general. Just things that Liz did not like. They were not a harassment website, in my opinion, at this point in time. A lot of the Summer Friends are sort of turning sections of the website into that, which would give Liz Fong Jones an in and a way to attempt to destroy the website, which is very unfortunate. Because like I don't think that those people should be allowed to continuously attack innocent people for absolutely no reason, but not my website, so not my purview. Others have bragged about how effective your client's efforts to deplatform Kiwi Farms and the speech it hosts have been. This is someone named Cat the Sage. I remember Alejandra Caraballo, the Esquia person. Kiwi Farms is fully down again, going on 5 days. They seem to have lost yet another Tier 1 ISP and cannot connect the host server to the internet at all. This might be permanent. Spoilers, it wasn't. Most people thought they were gone, but they've been back in a degraded form since October. This other person said, this came as a direct result of mine and Liz's efforts with End Kiwi Farms. I haven't spoken publicly about what we've been doing for quite some time, but we have been hard at work. I'll be able to speak more about this later today. And comments on your client's social media posts show that your client's target audience knows the real goal of your client's attacks on speech is to drive up the cost of perceived foes and make it so difficult, demoralizing, and expensive to operate that they can barely sustain themselves. This is a thing that looks like LinkedIn, maybe. Nandini Jami, co-founder at Check My Ads Institute and the Ad Tech Watchdog. This is it. The point isn't to stop them, it's to make it so difficult, demoralizing, and expensive to operate that they can barely sustain themselves. So glad you're getting the recognition you deserve. If this was happening to like a YouTuber, pretty much everybody would come together and denounce this kind of tactic, right? Like, this is grotesque, this is disgusting, and it affects far more people than just the Kiwi Farms. If you enjoy anonymity online, if you enjoy VTubing, if you enjoy content creators in general who use PNGs or who use an avatar, this could end up coming for them. It's a very dangerous, like, purity spiral that Liz Fong Jones has opened the Pandora's box of. Your client has also expressly bragged about doxing one of Lolcow LLC's alleged customers, Kevin Crawley, and getting him fired from his job. There's an image here from Liz Fong Jones saying the Meta Employee Relations Department investigation into Kevin Crowley has concluded. Separately, I've learned from industry sources that Kevin Crowley is no longer employed by Meta. Being a member of Kiwi Farms and engaging in racist and transphobic tirades is bad for one's career. And again, I know like Malcolm and Simone had said that I dealt a pretty nice blow to cancel culture shit with my Vice lawsuit. Most people aren't going to be able to counterclaim things like that. They are very, very costly. Very costly. And so this is Liz Fong Jones having gone after just a random user on Kiwi Farms before, and now they're figuring this is the best way to do it. Get all of the personal information of the users who post criticism, get them fired from their jobs, create this area of fear where if you post things, Liz Fong Jones might come after you. It might not even have to do with Liz Fong Jones, what you posted. It might just be something that they could use to get your information, and they're bored enough, they hate Kiwi Farms enough, and they have the money to do it. And that's not to say that Liz Fong Jones is specifically going to do this to other anonymous users. It could be other people. Other people seeing Liz Fong Jones do this and being like, hey, if it's working for them and it's making life difficult for the people they hate, why don't I do that to those heckin' chuds that criticize me, right? It's hard to find a woman to cosplay as you when they deliver the takedown notice to their front door. Kirsche tried and she couldn't even get the girl to say Munya right. Look, man, it was fun, all right? To know how Kiwi Farms is even making money to constantly fight in courts. He constantly crowds funds for all of this lawsuit shit. I can only imagine how fucking exhausting this is. Doxing is one of their tactics. Mercante, yeah, Mercante did it to Smash. You had Taylor Lorenz, again, back in the day, doxed Libs of TikTok. Libs of TikTok was basically an aggregation account that reported on exactly what lunatics on Blue Sky or doing transgender events were saying. And they got doxed for that. It's not exhausting if the funds are not yours. Also fair. There was somebody else who had a similar issue. Oh yeah, it was fucking using FOIA requests in order to dox VTubers. Like, it's getting pretty ridiculous, the lengths that some crazy people will go to. Solution, always post fake credentials. Sometimes that doesn't work, right? Like, especially when you have like a company to sort of obscure your personal information. You have to like renew your information for your business like every year. And even if you have like a registered agent that obscures your information, if that registered agent fucks up and you have people that hate you looking for your information, when you file your taxes, you have a chance of getting doxxed because your agent fucked you. And then there's nothing you can do about it, right? Like, your agent can't undox you. They can just say, oopsie poopsie, I fucked up. It is likely other customers have been similarly doxxed by your client. Indeed, your client even created a system by which users could check whether they had been doxxed. Liz Fong Jones posting, I don't know what the fuck that is. A huge thanks to Catherine Tueson at Blue Sky and the team at Cusk Law for their support over the past several years, but especially the work in the past few weeks to stop the harassment at its source. P.S. This is not the only positive ID we have on tech employees who use Kiwi Farms. Yeah, I have no idea what that token is. Your client has also taken actions to target Lolcow LLC itself. For example, your client expressly bragged about taking actions to ensure that Lolcow LLC's registered agent and virtual mailbox provider dropped Lolcow LLC as a customer. And again, I'm sure, like, I know there's been people who have talked about Drop Kiwi Farms extensively, but like this is a new chapter in it, and I hope just as many people cover this, because this is going to become everyone's problem as soon, and I know that in posting this, like, Josh had to know this is also partially an info hazard, but there comes a time where it's like, if this is going to affect so many people, even if it's an info hazard, you kind of have to talk about it. You kind of have to talk about it because it does no good to ignore bad thing happening because more bad actors might start using bad tactic. Because the bad actors are going to use bad tactic regardless of whether you talk about it or not. And then another screenshot here. Drop Kiwi Farms account saying, "Good news, everyone. Latest words from Josh Moon, leader of transphobic Nazi hate cult." The pepper leader. Dear Nazi. Things don't sound good. Hashtag Drop Kiwi Farms. And this is a screenshot of Josh saying he's dealing with problems here. Liz Fong Jones saying, "Whoever worked on getting them deregistered, agented, and demailing addressed is a big goddamn hero. And no, none of us want you dead, Josh. We just want you to stop running your hate site." This feels like all of the people who, like, try to get me financially ruined and cheer on attacks against me and then go, "But no one wants you dead, Kirsche. You're being crazy." Yeah, I don't think anyone's buying that shit after the last fucking year of assassination attempts and murders and successful assassinations. No one's fucking buying that. Not in a single way. If Kirsche, like, ever died, the amount of cheering I would see on Twitter would be absolutely fucking insane. And, like, think about that for a second. He might be a little bit autistic, but it's just like, what the fuck? You would cheer for the death of this dude just because he ran a website that said things you didn't like? No one wants you dead, you Nazi. Yeah, right? Lolcow LLC expressly moved to West Virginia because your client's actions made it impossible to obtain a registered agent elsewhere, and because West Virginia LLCs receive service of process through the Secretary of State. And Lolcow LLC also set up a post office box expressly because your client made it impossible to obtain any private mailing service. Your client's main concern has always been to get Kiwi Farms taken down. That's because Lolcow LLC owns an internet forum on which posters use anonymous usernames to comment upon and criticize various topics, including your client. Among your client's objectives, your client seeks to dox those internet critics whom your client believes to have objectionable views. This has been a large part of your law firm's business in recent years, and your client has also retained counsel in Australia for this same purpose. But we don't need to rely on statements by lawyers to prove this point because your client has said so on social media. This is a August 24 post. I don't know what year. Sure would be a shame if someone unmasked their real name so that their friends and coworkers might know what they do in their spare time. And this is once again something that leftists have never thought about because they've enjoyed being the mainstream for so long. Every single political institution, every single educational institution, every media institution backs up the same exact opinions these supposed revolutionary fighters have. They've never had to be anonymous to tell a joke. They've never had to be anonymous to say an opinion. They can say everything that they believe, no matter how hateful or twisted, and it always gets defended by people in power. This is an insane tactic that the left has used for so long, and it's why they cry so successfully when it's used against them. Your underlying DMCA demand letters already filed with the court at ECF numbers 11 and 13 show that this lawsuit is part of your client's broader pattern. Your client seeks to remove what your client feels are unflattering or morally objectionable statements from the internet. That has a tangential connection to copyright law at best. If anything, your client's use of copyright law to silence critics or unmask anonymous speakers is evidence of copyright misuse, not any valid copyright claim. Coleman versus ESPN, bunch of numbers. Because your client is misusing copyright law to try and dox those who engage in anonymous speech, your client may have exposure under New York's anti-slap regime. I don't know how expensive this would be, but I seriously hope that's fucking true. It feels like absolutely everyone is coordinating to try and remove any kind of internet anonymity. Politicians via think of the children messaging, and then duplicitous leftists just trying to ruin their political others. It's like the fight for internet anonymity is probably one of the biggest ones facing the internet right now. And unfortunately, the majority of people who talk about it just do not understand how important it is. It's like either leftists who hate it, and they know how important it is, which is why they want to kill it, or it's like boomers in political power who just do not understand that anonymity is a very, very important thing to be able to have to speak freely. Unfortunately, the amount of things we can do appears to be 0. Yeah, it's very rough. Very, very fucking rough. Lolcow LLC raises the following objections to your March 24th, 2026 subpoena. Lolcow reserves the right to supplement these objections as new facts become available to it, or if conferrals regarding your subpoena provide new perspective on your underlying requests. 1. Your subpoena seeks to unmask anonymous criticism, which is protected by fair use, and should be quashed on that basis. To the extent of that anonymity is protected by the First Amendment, a court should quash or modify a subpoena designed to breach anonymity. Arista Records Limited Liability Co. versus Doe 604. If an individual has made fair use of the copyrighted works, no claim of copyright infringement could possibly be alleged against him. And the subpoena would not be authorized under the DMCA in re DMCA Section 512, subpoena to YouTube, Google Inc. 581F supplement, bunch of fucking numbers. I hate reading, like, the names of these things. Your subpoena arises from 2 DMCA takedown requests, ECF number 11 and Exhibit A attached here too. That request raised concerns about the following images from the following anonymous posters. A, from 3 MMA, the consent accidents do occasionally happen image. And then the mass shooter Ron Choi, who was mentioned here, who put the image from Twitter up here. From Diggus Bickus, Haro pre me Chinese princess. That's the cropped version of it. And then someone here, sexy senior citizen, made a Photoshop edit of Big Mouth. Let me zoom in. It looks like he used some kind of a filter or touched it up in Photoshop or with AI. Guess what? I can do that too. Gave him a big Photoshopped smile. This is part of the infringing on copyright motion. From Teriyaki Burns. I'm not quite up enough on the meme to remember which way around it should be. Jesus Christ, what the fuck is this pink-haired creature? Jesus fucking Christ. I'm gonna subpoena your anonymity. True. From Dread First, the brick-jawed eunuch transvestite apparently sat down for an interview discussing the future of open-source contributions in the AI age. Local archive as below. They're DMCAing a public photo of them used by another organization that was promoting an interview with them. This could be like, I was just posting it as promotional material. Some more people went and watched the interview. That's fucking crazy. Here's 15 ways you're full of shit, and this is clearly an attempt to harm our users with citations. Nuh-uh. Yeah, that's pretty much what this is. As set forth in my letter filed with the court at ECF number 12, and especially in light of the information above regarding your client's apparent desire to dox Kiwi Farms users, the information you seek regarding 3MMA and Sexy Senior Citizen is inarguably fair use, and therefore the subpoena should be quashed just as it was in re-DMCA Section 512, subpoena to YouTube. The same analysis holds for the remaining images. This is commentary upon either your client's appearance or the photographic quality of the image in which you claim a copyright, as well as generally negative commentary on your client and your client's work. The images are all transformative. None of these images usurp your commercial market. All of them are patently critical in nature. Removing these images is aimed at silencing criticism and doxing Lolcow LLC users, and there is therefore no valid DMCA purpose for your subpoena. Your subpoena contains supposed definitions that purport to apply to non-parties to this litigation. The subpoena purports to be directed at Lolcow LLC, and this litigation involves Lolcow LLC, but your subpoena purports to define Kiwi Farms in such a way that it seeks records held by other entities. Kiwi Farms means the website and forum located at link or other addresses registered with the DMCA Service Agent directory for Lolcow LLC. This will also include any web pages for the United States Internet Preservation Society and or the podcast Mad at the Internet, or else known by their initialisms, USIPS or MATI. Mad at the Internet LLC and the United States Internet Preservation Society are separate entities, by the way, and are not under the control of Lolcow LLC. I am not the DMCA agent or registered agent for the United States Internet Preservation Society, and you have not served them through their agents or directed your subpoenas at them. I am the DMCA agent and the only DMCA agent for Mad at the Internet LLC, but I do not serve as their registered agent and am not authorized to accept compulsory process on their behalf. To the extent that your subpoena seeks records held in the custody of these third parties, Lolcow LLC objects and cannot produce the records of third parties. I didn't even know that. I didn't know that Kirsche had all of his companies as like Matryoshka dolls. That's really fucking intelligent and also probably took a lot of effort. In a just world, a sexual assaulter trying to use copyright law to stop people spreading accurate information about their sexual assaults should be illegal in and of itself. You are completely fucking correct. You have said no distruths on this day. It's common enough for liability structuring. Yeah, I'm just impressed. It kind of has to do. I mean, I'm sure he does, right? He's been in the game too long to be caught lacking. Very true. It's like, that's crazy. Your subpoenas violate the Federal R-Civ P Fed R-Civ P. I have no idea what the fuck that is. Your subpoena is intended to short-circuit the ordinary rules of discovery applicable to civil actions. We have not yet had any Rule 26 conference, and discovery has not yet commenced. To the extent that your subpoena was served electronically in connection with the civil case, it is improper premature discovery. Additionally, and/or alternatively, it is disproportionate to the needs of the case at this stage of the proceedings, in light of the fact that no responsive pleadings are due until June 22nd, 2026. Your subpoena was improperly served and calls for compliance in an improper location. To the extent you intend the subpoena to stand alone and argue that it does not constitute an attempt at discovery, in the case in which it was issued, your subpoena was not properly served pursuant to whatever the fuck this is, because I do not serve as Lolcow LLC's registered agent for purposes of service of process, and because I have only consented to be served electronically in connection with the civil case. Further, although I am Lolcow DMCA agent, your subpoena is not a takedown request authorized to be served upon a DMCA agent, but is a separate compulsory legal process. It must be served pursuant to whatever the fuck Fed R-Civ P45 is. Additionally, your subpoena calls for the production of documents in New York City, but Fed R-Civ P45 states that a subpoena may only command production within 100 miles of where the recipient resides or transacts business. Lolcow LLC is a West Virginia entity which does not regularly transact business in New York, and compelling production in New York is therefore improper. 5. Your subpoena is unduly burdensome, and its broad scope renders producing a privilege log equally burdensome or impossible. Your subpoena purports to call for production of materials in the hands of multiple third parties and even attorneys. Searching for the information in control of third parties is unduly burdensome or even impossible. Searching for such information in a client file is burdensome, and any such material would be protected by the attorney work product privilege or the attorney-client privilege. The subpoena is therefore not reasonably calculated to ascertain any non-protected information, but can only result in the burdens of searching for records and then preparing a log citing these privileges. And because the apparent scope of what you seek is so broadly defined, a privilege log may well be more voluminous even than the underlying client file, driving up costs without any corresponding elucidation of the issues. And he's completely right here, but I don't even know, because right, Alyssa Mercante was able to get a whole bunch of fucking shit from Smash JT, even though it was unduly burdensome. So it's like, I can only imagine the effort and money needing to go into being like, we know this is malicious, we know you're doing this maliciously, and we're trying to explain legally how you're doing it maliciously. But it's like, it's exhausting even reading it, and I'm not the one having to deal with it. Further, transactor information as defined in your subpoena calls for a broad swath of data that is not compiled in any organized form, if at all, such that the subpoena effectively calls for Lolcow LLC to review its entire financial history over a period of years, manually, to associate any alleged payments with particular users. This drives up cost unnecessarily. Without waiving any objections as set forth above, to the extent that you can better narrow or identify the documents you seek, for which we believe a privilege is applicable, we're prepared to prepare a privilege log to any documents reasonably in dispute rather than on a wholesale basis. And to the extent that you can better narrow or identify the transactor information you seek, which is in the custody of Lolcow rather than its attorney, we are prepared to reconsider our position if your subpoena is more narrowly targeted. Conclusion: Your client cannot obtain a subpoena without first plausibly alleging some underlying act of copyright infringement, and any subpoena unrelated to such a plausible claim should be quashed in Read DMCA Section 512H subpoena to YouTube Google Inc. Lolcow objects to your subpoena for that reason and all others set forth above. To the extent that you maintain a contrary position, we invite you to confer. I note that I will be in Manhattan April 27th through the 29th, and I'm happy to meet you at your office any of those days. And then finally, I have another thing here filed in April. Dear Mr. Haygood, this letter will convey Lolcow LLC's written objections to the subpoena, and it puts more of these screenshots in here. This is a screenshot from Getter Grifter. This is another one just mocking I can't do China accent. Ariat, you brick-face freak. Since you monitor your thread relentlessly here, consent accidents do occasionally happen image once again. You're a loathsome degenerate, and humanity will objectively be better off once you're gone. So once again, you know, just things that Liz probably doesn't like seeing typed out by people. We object to the March 30th subpoena for the reasons set forth in my April 7th letter and the reasons set forth below. Fong Jones' continued attempts to stifle anonymous criticism, without in any way limiting the foregoing in my incorporation by reference of Lolcow's April 7th objections. I also note that your pattern on behalf of your client has continued. Specifically, you continue to send DMCA subpoenas and takedown requests that are clearly targeted at punishing those who engage in anonymous critical speech. This pattern has escalated in the days since my April 7th letter, and in one of the most recent and most egregious examples of this, using the DMCA as a cudgel against anonymous critics rather than for any legitimate purpose. On April 10th, you sent the takedown request, which is attached here too as Exhibit B. In that request, you demanded my client remove the following image. When you subpoena a forum to quash dissent and they still keep making fun of you. Consent accidents are no good. Thank you, Donald Duck. I think that's Donald Duck in the corner there. The frowny face.
What the fuck?
You swore under penalty of perjury that your client had a copyright claim to the above image. Such a claim is obviously spurious and even indicative of bad faith, given that the photograph is altered in its entirety from the photograph in which your client claims a copyright. Donald the Duck Hog. That's Sonic? Oh yeah, you're right, it is Sonic. That is Sonic giving a thumbs up. Chat, I thought this was like, I thought the mouth of Sonic was the duck bill of Donald Duck, and like this part of his eye was Donald Duck's head, with the colored part being Donald Duck's eye. This was like the body. Fuck, man. I'm actually fucking blind. Jesus Christ. And is clearly intended as a commentary on your client's behavior both in this litigation, issuing subpoenas to squash dissent, and more generally, characterizing an allegation of sexual assault as a consent accident. The latest information, especially taken together with the broader history referenced in my April 7th, 2026 letter, shows that your client's true purpose is not to protect any copyright interest, but is instead to punish those who dare to express any criticism. While incorporating by reference and in their entirety the objections already conveyed on April 7th to your earlier subpoena, Lolcow raises the following objections to your March 30th subpoena. Lolcow reserves the right to supplement these objections as new facts become available to it, or it confers regarding your March 30th subpoena provide new perspective on underlying requests. 1. Your subpoena seeks to unmask anonymous criticism, which is protected by fair use and should be quashed on that basis. And here's that Getter Grifter image once again. Your March 30th subpoena arises from one DMCA takedown request, Exhibit A. That request raised concerns about the following image from an anonymous subscriber known as Getter Grifter. As set forth in my letter filed with the court at ECF number 12, and especially in light of the information regarding your client's apparent desire to dox Kiwi Farms users, the information you seek regarding Getter Grifter arises from that subscriber's fair use criticism of any ostensibly copyrighted protected work. Because you cannot plausibly state a DMCA claim against Getter Grifter, the DMCA subpoena should be quashed. This court has already done exactly that in an analogous case in Read DMCA Section 512, subpoena to YouTube. We've read that a bunch of times. The image of your client at issue above is substantially the same with respect to the March 30th subpoena as it was in your earlier subpoena, albeit the surrounding commentary differs slightly. The commentary embedded in the image, as well as the surrounding commentary, bears upon either your client's appearance or the photographic quality of the image in which you claim a copyright, as well as generally negative commentary on your client and your client's work. Damn, brother. It's literally just gonna keep happening. Your subpoena contains supposed definitions that purport to apply to non-parties in this litigation. They once again say that Kiwi Farms only refers to specific things, reiterating once again that he is not a party to do stuff with the other LLCs. Subpoenas unduly burdensome. Once again, another conclusion. And then Kirsche made an updated article about Liz Fong Jones and their duplicitous tactics, which once again, regardless of how you feel about the farms, you should absolutely fucking care about what is going on in this matter. Finding someone's personally identifying information usually involves that person first making a mistake, creating public posts that can be cross-referenced with public records. Someone with perfect privacy practices could not be doxxed in this way. I very much disagree, because, and I know Kirsche and I probably have a different of opinion on this. People will say if you get someone's dox information from a public source, then it's free game. You know that by posting it, you're doing something malicious. You know that by posting someone's personal information, you're hoping that harm comes to them, right? Like, there's no reason to be posting that, especially when it's someone who has quite literally done nothing wrong or, like, has no criminal record or anything. Doesn't make any sense. And even if you have perfect privacy practices, you have to give up your right to vote if you do not want your public information public, or your private information public, rather. Because anyone can look up voter rolls and find who the fuck you are. It is no longer possible to stay anonymous from a dedicated adversary. He's correct about that. Liz Fong Jones, an ex-Google tech millionaire and trans activist, has figured out how to dox anyone who posts online simply by filling in a form. Who is Liz Fong Jones? Liz Fong Jones is a former Google employee who is now a fellow with Honeycomb, a tech startup so large it has direct relations with Anthropic, GCP, Azure, and other billion-dollar platforms. Liz Fong Jones, in short, is a very well-connected activist, unfortunately for everyone who wants to remain anonymous. In 2019, Liz Fong Jones was accused of sexual assault and took to Twitter to pen a defense. In short, Jones minimizes the accusation as a simple consent accident. This was in October 2022. Someone claimed that he sexually assaulted him or her. Liz Fong, no dong. Consent accidents do occasionally happen. And this screenshot from possibly Twitter says, consent accidents do occasionally happen. It's part of the risk-aware consensual kink. I've heard of consensual non-consent, but what the fuck is risk-aware consensual kink? The fuck does that mean? And I think that when they do, we need to be able to understand what happened rather than lashing out or blanket just denying that anything happened, both of which suck. This again makes me think of all the people trying to like defend POCD, when it's like, when we did a deep dive into pedophilic obsessive compulsive disorder, I was like, I could see this being real if someone is like a victim of pedophiles, right? And they're just like, I'm terrified of becoming the same monster that my abusers were, or if they were like party to watching this stuff happen to other people when they were at a vulnerable age. That makes sense to me. That could be a real thing. However, the majority of people who want to somehow claim they have POCD, or surprisingly claim that they've been cured of their pedophilic obsessive compulsive disorder, when we read some of the shit coming from psychiatrists, and when we read what people were posting on like self-help forums for POCD, it was horrifying. And it was very clearly not people who were traumatized and terrified of becoming pedophiles. It was people who are pedophiles and who are using it as a shield to get more people to defend them. It was really fucking grotesque. And it doesn't surprise me, because after everyone has figured out what maps are, they need somewhere else to hide. So the tweet is deleted, but it's here forever. Obviously, archive everything. The rest of the thread, Liz Fong Jones saying, she genuinely believes that I have sexually assaulted her and I considered her a friend. I'm genuinely sorry for what she's going through, but feel that a blameless perspective would try to examine how the miscommunication happened. In my view, this was neither foreseeable nor deliberate. I sincerely wish that we had communicated our circumstances and needs better, but there's nothing I can do about it now that the damage has been done. I hope that she heals. I understand she may need to talk about it in order to heal or get closure. She has asked me never to contact her again, and I'm doing my best to abide by it. Slack missing a block feature notwithstanding. We did read some of these earlier. But I also cannot allow myself to get smeared without stating what my experience and viewpoints was. Nor can I allow myself to be the target of attempts to psychologically harm me in return. I understand that she's feeling suicidal and traumatized, but it is counterproductive to try and attack me to the point of me becoming suicidal too. Chat, if you're innocent of a quote-unquote consent accident, this is example number 1 of what not to do. Because this makes you sound more guilty. This was always going to be a mistake I was going to regret for the rest of my life. Wait, how are you, first of all, how are you calling it a consent accident, right? And then you're saying, but it actually wasn't. But also, this is a mistake I'm gonna regret for the rest of my life. What did you mean by this? I did something terrible to someone else, but what about my mental health? Pretty fucking much. Absolutely grotesque. I don't know what to do other than to be clear and transparent to the community and otherwise to try and give her space. If this results in consequences for me, then very well, may the consequences, or they may very well be consequences I deserve, you be the judge. Note, please, please, please do not try to identify or de-anonymize her or take any action against her. The last thing I want is a further escalation of the situation. All I want here is for things to de-escalate and for both of us to heal from this. It's a shitty situation. When you imagine, like, again, this is a person accused of sexual assault. So when you imagine, like, an alleged rapist talking in this manner to their victim, that's really fucking gross. That's really fucking disgusting. Like, they're trying to position themselves as also a victim. Liz continues, in short, 1, Liz lives with a dog. Liz's clothing has dog hair on it. 3? Why did they skip 2? Liz had consensual sex with someone. This is in debate. You've been accused of sexual assault, so this is in debate. 4, that person has phobia of dog hair and didn't say so. 5, that person thinks Liz deliberately and maliciously got dog hair on her. 6, she accuses Liz of sexual assault. I feel like we're missing some information here. Someone named Daniel responded, I think this is the best example I've ever seen by a tremendous margin of how to defend yourself without being horrible. I'm sorry you're both going through this, and I'm in awe of your ability to manage the situation. Naomi Wu, that name is familiar, but I can't remember why, said, it really is. This tweet thread is something to show others who go through similar things. Actual insanity. And then Liz once again saying here, again, consent accidents do occasionally happen. It's part of the risk-aware consensual kink. And I think that when they do, we need to be able to understand what happened rather than lashing out or blanket just denying that anything happened, both of which suck. Naomi saying, also the idea of subjective truths is common here, but less so there. If she's willing to simply accept no contact as an outcome despite her subjective truth that she genuinely believes, that's very generous of her. It's the best we can hope for given the circumstances. Isn't that the same as, like, telling a rape victim to not speak up about it? The fuck are we doing here? Liz continued, yeah, and as a friend pointed out, no contact has its limits when the person starts publicly smearing rather than agreeing not to talk to or about each other. I once made a, hey, let's not talk about each other pact. Only one of us holds up that end of the bargain. A convo with Charity Majors, co-founder of Honeycomb. Charity Majors, NYC Price is the least gayest thing I've seen. It's all girls clinging to beefy dudes and Midwestern moms. I want to see girls clinging to beefy dudes. Where's my beefy dude? The only place I know like this is Camp Beaverton at Burning Man. Liz Fong Jones saying, is that not the purpose of Girl Pile? And they link a Vice article called How Cookies, Lube, and Human Immolation. What? Girl Pile teaches us how to throw a girls-only sex party non-pareil? What the fuck? Yeah, sure, it's fun, but they keep having it in the East Bay and on nights when I've been working all day and not at 6 p.m. Someone named Chastity said, y'all are very dirty ladies, blowing my tiny Midwestern mind here. Liz Fong Jones said, I started exploring stuff post-transition in and around the SF kink poly scene, so it kind of warped my sense of normal. Is that how consent accidents happen, when you have a warped sense of normal? It's just their culture. On the other hand, if privacy controls work, I should be able to be friends with my kink friends under our vanilla personae? Liz said, yeah, that should work. I'm doing precisely that, having an opt-in kink circle to which I post kink things. There's a whole world of degenerate hedonism I know nothing about. Learning consent at San Fran orgies. What the fuck? Oh my god, there are videos of women being asphyxiated with plastic bags. Have you considered for a moment that maybe some of these women enjoy it and are getting paid to, and it's a fun day at work for them? Being a sex worker would also actually be pretty high up on my list because I get paid to do something I like. I seriously considered applying to work with kink.com. I used to make the very dark joke of like, if the woman in pornography is enjoying it, I can't get off to it. I haven't made that joke in a very long time because it seems more and more frequently that actual degenerates come out with that as like a real opinion. They're just like, I need to make sure that the consent is dubious. And it's like, that's fucking weird. I was like, and it makes me feel like I can't even make a joke about it anymore because so many people like say that genuinely, and it's fucking weird. Seems like risk aware is just a blanket term for any kind of BDSM play such as CNC. Sounds kind of rapey to me, man. But these last few images saying, oh my god, there are videos of women being asphyxiated with plastic bags. That was a real quote. Have you considered for a moment that maybe some of these women enjoy it and are getting paid to, and it's a fun day at work for them? Just watch hentai. You don't need to see real flesh and blood women having horrific things done to them. You can just watch hentai if you want to see things that would be taboo in real life. What are we doing? Seriously, if I didn't have a tech career, being a sex worker would also be pretty high up on my list because I'd get paid to do something I like. Why is this always a career goal of like supposed trans people? What is this? This is some onogodophiliac shit, brother. You can imagine consent accidents being common in the subreddit of rapists whose kink is deluding themselves into thinking they're not totally rapists. True and fucking real. I ultimately decided that I probably couldn't maintain anonymity between sex work and professional life. And yeah, Silicon Dom has receipts for exactly how bad it impacts your professional career if you're outed. When you're showing off like your flesh and blood body, yeah, you're not going to be able to maintain anonymity because, like, you're literally doing sex work as you. Merely changing your name to, like, Princess Little Piddles isn't going to maintain your anonymity, bro. I do appreciate the concern for folks who have experienced non-consensual distribution of images and video, but also the same people who are punishing this effort are the ones who pushed SESTA and FOSTA to criminalize consensual sex work. I don't know what they mean by that. I don't remember. I remember talking about FOSTA in the past, but I don't remember anything about them. My memory is not that great, chat. But also, I feel like there's a massive fucking difference between revenge pornography and then, like, you posting a naked image of yourself online and then complaining when that naked image gets posted elsewhere. Like, that isn't revenge pornography. That's like, you posted that on Twitter and are now upset that someone's reposting it elsewhere. That's different.
Who posted my nudes on Twitter.com?
They're using folks who have experienced non-consensual distribution of sexual images and video in order to enshrine anti-sex work morality into the law rather than actually having concern for those victims. If that's the background, as much background as possible, I feel like there should be more, but that's Liz Fong Jones' consent accident. In 2019, Liz Fong Jones was accused of sexual assault and took to Twitter to pen a defense. In short, Jones minimizes the accusations as a simple consent accident, a ridiculous misunderstanding over dog hair. The original victim statements have disappeared from the internet. Coincidentally, Jones is a master of internet censorship. The Kiwi Farms is the only place that hosts critical information against Liz Fong Jones, which is why Jones has been dedicated to bringing down the site for almost a full decade. After failing for years, Liz Fong Jones switched tactics: just sue everyone. 5 years of history in 2 sentences. Liz Fong Jones engaged in a campaign of litigious aggression against people with no direct association to Josh's website, attacked internet infrastructure by directly contacting the executives of the largest ISPs in the world, and achieved provider-level censorship that the free internet has never seen prior. We still found ways to stay online. Liz Fong Jones is a sadistic and intelligent psychopath. He's obsessed with meticulously curating his internet reputation. At best, he has total disregard for the freedom and well-being of others. At worst, he simply enjoys torturing people of modest means through costly litigation because they've ever dared to say a cross word about him on the internet, or just for being friends with someone who has. On June 25th, 2026, Liz Fong Jones has filed a DMCA lawsuit involving 10 John Does, claiming that fair use edits of his social media profile deprived him of his rights. These images ranged from critically transformative text overlays about the consent accident to highly reconstructive AI parodies to MS Paint drawings that stayed up for only about an hour. I have not been able to find the MS Paint drawing. I really wanted to. I really wanted to find the MS Paint drawing meme because that to me was like the most ridiculous. Like, it's already ridiculous to be DMCAing over a public headshot and DMCAing over like AI or photoshopped parodies of said headshot. But the MS Paint drawing would have been the most ludicrous, but in searching all of the court documents, I could not find it. The point is not the copyright nor any financial harm, it's about doxing people, and this is what I've been saying the entire time, which is why, regardless of how you personally feel about the farms, this is something you should care about. By the time you're arguing fair use in court, you're already doxed and have spent tens of thousands of dollars, you've already lost. To that end, Liz Fong Jones hired an entire law firm, Kusk, Kommerman, Unsick, Soniker, and Klein, to perfect a strategy I will now give you for free. Here's how to dox anyone. And this is, of course, once again, the info hazard I was talking about earlier, but this is already something YouTubers have to deal with due to the DMCA system on YouTube not working in defense of people using stuff for fair use, unfortunately. DMCA Section 512 provides a pre-litigation subpoena process for acquiring subscriber information from any service provider in the US, or anywhere that might honor an American court order. These are the proper orders from the court with the full force and power of the United States federal government behind them. They cannot be ignored. These instructions are for educational purposes. Do not break the law or defraud the court. I'm not an attorney, and this is not legal advice. Read the law. So 1, find a service that your target posts on. 2, issue a DMCA takedown notice. This is a formal copyright complaint. 3, prepare the following documents. AI can generate these. A request to the clerk to issue the subpoena. B, a proposed subpoena for Form AO88B, or a court-specific template directed to the service provider, ordering them to disclose identifying information about the alleged infringer, sufficient for the copyright owner to pursue their rights, i.e. docs to find them and serve them a lawsuit. A copy of the 512c3 notification or a statement that was sent. Include a sworn declaration stating the subpoena will only be used to protect your 17 USC 512 rights, copyright only, not defamation. 4, file with the clerk of any U.S. district court. Pay the filing fee. Standard fee is $49. Wait for it to be granted. The 512H provides no sanity checks. The court will almost always grant it. Northern District of California prints these routinely. Send the subpoena to the service provider. Wait for the docs. It's coming to you on a silver platter. Almost no service provider will pay for lawyers to defend some random guy's personal information. This could happen to you. For you posting in a streamer's chat, for you posting on a website like Kiwi Farms or the Virtual Asylum, for posting on Twitter, for posting on Blue Sky. It doesn't matter how anonymous you try to be, this could come for you. This could come to any one of your Oshis, even if they're not a YouTube streamer and have already suffered from the YouTube DMCA system. People who want to deal harm to a anonymous YouTuber or anonymous creator on Kick or Twitch or X, they can use this service and be like, this person, they wouldn't obviously say this illegally, they'd be like, this person criticized me and I don't like that. I'm going to use DMCA to try and dox them and do more real world harm to them. Like, again, I'm sure that he understands this is an info hazard too. And the fact that, like, he's warning people about this, I think is a service of goodwill. That's all. Unless the target has maintained OPSEC so good that the US federal government wouldn't be able to subpoena their way to finding them, you can use this mechanism to dox anyone. And I would be willing to bet that very few people online have this level of OPSEC. Because once again, if you are registered to vote, or if you have ever voted previously, your information is findable. You can get doxed via voter rolls. And it's unfortunate that there are not many safeguards in place to protect people from this. Like, your personal information can be found publicly, and people wanting to do malicious damage to you will use that as an excuse, right? They'll be like, oh, I found this information in some data breach, but now it's public, so now I can use it. Oh, I found this in voter rolls are public, so now I can use it. And people acting maliciously will do these things in order to harm people who have done nothing wrong, as we can see from this. The farm seems like a schizoid doxing hangout to begin with. I can see how someone would get that opinion if they only found the farms in the last few years, to be fair. It's that easy. Won't the court check that my request makes sense? No, there are no sanity checks. The 512H subpoena issues ministerially. Ministerially? That's a new word. The clerk has no statutory power to review even the factual basis of your request. All cases involving quashing a 512H subpoena are done after the issuance. Named as IN re-Reddit. I don't know what that is. Our court works on the honor system. It's designed to be this way because the MPAA / the RIAA owns the Congress. Nobody gives a fuck. We're all on our own. And I feel like a lot of our laws operate on this good faith basis, which is why we see so much fraudulence coming from people from the third world who have been taught how to defraud our systems by people in positions of power. Don't you have to file a lawsuit? No. DMCA 512H is a pre-litigation administrative tool. You cannot sue someone you cannot serve a lawsuit on, and that requires knowing who they are. To let rights holders sue anonymous people on the internet, the Congress in the 1990s wrote into the DMCA a way to dox anyone. It exists specifically to get information before any lawsuit is filed. There is no requirement you follow through. And this being against doxing and making doxing more of a horrific thing with consequences to post online was something I said that the Creators Caucus should be addressing. It's why I reached out to my senator about the Creators Caucus, and unfortunately they weren't interested. But I guess fortunately, it doesn't matter because I guess the Creators Caucus does jack fucking shit anyway. How do I file a 512c3 takedown notice? You simply need to fill in a form or have AI generate one. And it's a notice that comports to DMCA 512c3a. In essence, all you need is 2 links, your email address and a sentence saying, I swear that everything here is true. I'm authorized to represent this copyright and I have good faith belief my rights are being infringed. Sign and send. And it doesn't matter if you're lying about this portion of having good faith. People can point out that, hey, they're just doing this to get people's personal information, but that is very costly to do. The correct person to send it to is their DMCA agent, which can only be found on the copyright.gov DMCA agent directory. Any other copyright process on their site is not the 512c3 point of contact and exists to cause confusion. The YouTube and Google copyright forums are all designed to misdirect you into filing complaints that are not legally enforceable, as they are not statutory DMCA takedown system. If they haven't registered an agent, they don't enjoy 512c safe harbor provisions at all, which is bad for them. Just email anyone you can find in that instance. How long does this take? You can file a takedown notice and request a subpoena the same day. You do not need the target to counter DMCA. You do not have to wait for a response to your notice. There is no need to wait any length of time at all. You may immediately request a subpoena from the court after sending the notice. Northern District of California grants these subpoenas so regularly that if you file on a Monday, you will almost certainly get your subpoena by Wednesday. Once you have it, the response time is flexible. Language is expeditiously disclosed. Big companies have a formal subpoena intake process that is 1 to 4 weeks. Smaller providers may be faster. Time to start petitioning local reps about addressing this stuff. If we can't do it federally, you wonder if there'd be a way to make it difficult on the state side? I certainly fucking hope so, because there is basically no point in posting someone's, like, house information. There's no point in, like, getting their real name information unless you want to do real harm to them. There's, like, asterisk very few cases in which it's like, this person is a felon, this person is a rapist, this person is a pedophile, right? Very, very small use case for, like, this is a public service announcement about a dangerous individual. But 99.9% of the time, it's supposed to do harm to the person. DMCA is a trap for left tubers to use, so if you counter it, you get doxxed. You get doxxed even without countering it, man. That's crazy. Can't the provider refuse? Yes, but they won't. In the Kiwi Farms case, I have moved to quash the subpoena with our attorney. This is a very unusual and expensive step. As long as the DMCA looks like it could be legitimate and the target isn't very high profile, they will not ask questions. And he's right about this. Kirsche doesn't have to protect his users, but he has every reason to do so. So I would expect him to. But do you really think, like, Twitter is gonna give a fuck? Do you think Twitch is gonna give a fuck? If somebody DMCAs you or another anonymous creator, they're not gonna give a fuck. They're gonna turn over your information immediately, brother. Will the target know I did this? Yes, 512G describes the takedown and replacement process. When the provider receives your 512c3 notice, they will forward a copy of everything you sent to the author of the post you are claiming. This will provide them the opportunity to contest the takedown. Since you can file a 512H subpoena with the court immediately after sending the 512c3 notice, you can probably get a subpoena from the clerk before they even get notified about the copyright complaint. While 512G notifies them of the takedown request, nothing notifies them about the subpoena. It's also a toss-up if the provider who received the subpoena will notify the target of this. There's no legal requirement that either the court or the provider do so. There's no way to quash a subpoena that you're not informed about. What's also funny is that while 512G3 says to file a counter notification, they basically have to dox themselves to you anyway. The average person responding will have no idea you get their contact information and will use their own information instead of a corporate shell. This means you don't even have to go through with the subpoena process. It frequently happens that someone will just accidentally dox themselves in the counter notification. Of course, for a foreign criminal lying to the court, there's no notice at all. They just get the subpoena without sending anything. Why haven't people figured this out before? As he says, and as I was about to say, yeah, they have. IP rights holders use it routinely and have since the 1990s. A few fringe psychos have tried it in the past. What's new is that a tech millionaire and trans activist, Liz Fong Jones, is using it to target an entire community of tens of thousands of people for the sole purpose of upending their constitutional rights. Even if you are not part of the farms, even if you don't post there, if you enjoy being anonymous on the internet, or if you enjoy anonymous creators, this is something that affects you. This is something that you should care about. Won't I get in trouble? Maybe. You have to swear under penalty of perjury twice that what you're doing is in good faith. However, the bar for proving bad faith is very high. If there's any reason you might have your right, or might have thought your rights were being infringed, you're probably safe. Examples: screenshots or reproductions of your articles or posts, copies or edits of images you took, sharing or remixing your music or spoken word audio, clips or parodies of a video you made. Anything else that can be considered your copyright being shared in any form.
Spicy cat raid. What the hell is this spicy cat raid?
Gaming Syndicate, thank you for the raid. Welcome, Raiders. Welcome, Raiders. Big, huge. If a normal person gets the DMCA, it's better to get rid of any sources because countering it, you risk yourself. Even if you get rid of the sources, they're still going to get your information. It's pretty much just like an instant win button from my understanding here, which is kind of fucking shitty. Kind of really shitty, and also why, regardless of what issues anyone might have had with anyone else, when the quartering got Kino Casino's channel taken down, everyone took Kino Casino and Kiwi Farm's side on it. Everyone realized, hey, this is fucked up and you don't fucking do that. Remember, you don't have to win anything, you're not actually going to court, you're just trying to state that you have a good faith belief you were entitled to take down a post and issue a 512H subpoena. That bar can be met just by being stupid and wrong. The whole point of this mechanism is you don't have to sue anyone. That is very expensive. For your target to even retain a lawyer, they're spending about $5,000 after the fact just to complain you already got away with something for $49. And a $5,000 I'm complaining about this is a high fucking price tag. To try and say you acted in bad faith, they have to sue you. By that point, the damage is already done and you already have their information. They can't undox themselves. Genies do not go back into bottles. Do I have to be an American, be a lawyer, or hire a lawyer? No. You can file pro se from anywhere in the world. The Northern District of California will allow you to e-file from outside the country representing yourself. The fix, the only thing that can fix the DMCA is Congress. That won't happen. Let's play pretend and assume Congress is a functional institution that gives a shit about you. They don't. Here's what they could do. 1. Add strict liabilities to 512H abuse with statutory damages. They could also add better protections against takedown notice abuse in general. Currently, there is no protections for victims of DMCA abuse. The one safeguard is 512F, which only applies to the 512c3 notice, requires knowingly false statements, not just being wrong and stupid, and is almost never awarded. 2. Require a complaint to be filed and some attempt at normal service of process before allowing the 512H. There are currently 0 safeguards or sanity checks. 3. Add safeguards to pro se filing and PACER in general. Right now, there's nothing stopping anyone from filing bogus lawsuits under false names. As we saw with that fucking Indian guy suing that lady at JP Morgan, nobody believes that she was using him as a sex slave, but he keeps doubling down. And he originally filed under just John Doe. Someone from China could e-file a lawsuit against you for something heinous like child abuse using a completely AI-generated complaint and a totally fictitious story. ruin your life, force you to pay thousands to fight the lawsuit, and suffer no repercussions. And this, again, is incredibly dangerous and scary from some of the stuff we've seen happening to YouTubers in the past. That's all it would take. Technically, you must serve an OSP, online service provider, i.e. YouTube, not a mere conduit ISP, like Cox. In reality, you can request whatever you want. It's up to the service provider to care. So I think this is a, once again, even though this has been kind of used on certain people before, Liz Fong Jones is kind of going at even like lower level people, right? This used to be just like content creator slap fights, but now it's like just anonymous forum users, and we've seen recently as well anonymous like Twitter people. And I think this is dangerous, and it sets a very dangerous precedent, and especially if we want to make sure any kind of cancel culture actually fucking stops. We cannot abide by DMCA claims being filed in bad faith in order to get docs information, in order to ruin someone's life. This is like an incredibly disingenuous thing to be doing, and hopefully enough people can get eyes on it that maybe we can get some kind of politician to care and levy some kind of changes to the DMCA rules.